Okay. So if you're not back yet, bring it on back because we're going to start going through these. All right. The idea is, all right, we're using the triangle above to fill in the following trig ratios. All right. So we'll go to here. All right. So basically the sign of B, remember when you enter it in, you're entering in a fraction because it's a ratio. So that's going to be the 8 root 3 over the 15. Okay. All right. Now the cosine of B, realize cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. They don't give it to you, so you have to use Pythagorean theorem. So you're going to do 8 root 3 squared, which is 192. 15 squared, which is 225, and you're going to subtract. 225 minus 192 is square root of 33. So the cosine of B, all right, would be the square root of 33 over 15. All right. Now, when you do the tangent is opposite over adjacent. All right. So the idea is the opposite is the 8 root 3. The adjacent is the root 33. All right. So we start with that. So 8 root 3 over root 33. Okay. The problem is we would have to rationalize the denominator. All right. So you can either multiply both top and bottom by root 33 or realize 3 over 33 can be reduced. All right. Either way, so I'm going to go with that direction. So since that can be reduced, that's going to be 8 over root 11. All right. And then when I multiply both top and bottom by root 11, I get 8 root 11 over 11 for my final answer. So make sure, ugly. All right. So 8 root 11 over 11. So make sure you are able to do all that. And then hopefully the lesson for today with this is that the sine of one angle is the cosine of the other non-right angle. We're ignoring C because that's the right angle. But the sine of one, because that's opposite over hypotenuse, is the cosine of the other because that's adjacent over hypotenuse. All right? Okay. So now what we're going to basically do is go through the word problems until about 9, how long it takes. Yesterday in class, okay? All right. We already did these two. All right, so we did those two yesterday, so we're going to move on to the next one, which is my dad put the 40-foot ladder up against his house in order to clean his gutter, as shown in the diagram below. If he decreases the angle the ladder makes with the ground by 1 degree, how far does the top of the ladder fall? So here's our triangle. The ladder is 40 feet. All right. We're trying to figure out how far down, so we're going to worry about the opposite. All right, so we're going to work with sine. So the sine of 65 equals opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 40. All right, I'm going to end up multiplying both sides by 40, so I got 40 sine 65. I go to my calculator, 40 sine 65, and it shoots out 36.25. All right, so that's 36.25. Now, yesterday we talked about rounding to the nearest inch. Okay, so basically we're going to take that 36.25 in our calculator and we're going to minus the 36. That leaves us with the inches. Okay, we take that and multiply by the number of inches in a foot, which is 12. We multiply the decimal by 12 and we get 3.0277, which is about 3 inches. All right, so this is 36 feet, 3 inches. All right, now it says my dad decreases the angle the ladder makes by 1 degree. All right, so it's still 40, but now it's 64 degrees. All right. So this is the new height, so I'll call it n. So the sine of 64 equals n over 40. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with my calculator, 40 sine. This time instead of 65, it's 64. And I get 35.95176. All right, so that gives me 35 feet. I get rid of the 35 feet. So I take away the 35 and I multiply by 12. And I get 11.42, which is about 11 inches. Now I got 35 feet, 11 inches. All right, and then you figure out from 35.11 to 36.3 is 4 inches. And my final answer would be 4 inches. So not a real lot of movement there if we move it 1 degree. All right, next one. Diagonal rectangle makes a 32-degree angle with its longest side. If the length of the diagonal is 15 centimeters, what is the perimeter and area of the rectangle round to the nearest 10th place for both? All right. So now we're looking at, okay, our diagonal obviously looks like that. Rectangle has a right angle. This is 32 degrees with the longer side. And then they tell us the diagonal is 15. So I need to get two side lengths, x and y. All right, this is in centimeters, so I don't have to worry about converting to inches. So x is the opposite over hypotenuse, so I'm going to use sine. Y is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, because I'm going to use cosine. So x is going to be 15 sine 32. Y is going to be 15 cosine 32. All right. When I do 15 sine 32, I get 7.9487. So I'm going to round that to 7.95. All right. When I do 15 cosine 32, I'm going to get 12.72. Okay, now, here's a little hint for everybody. Since at the end of the problem, I want to round to the nearest tenths, if you go one more in the intermediate steps, you should be fine. You should be covered. All right? So now to get the perimeter, I'm going to add these and multiply by 2, because perimeter is the sum of the sides. So when I do 7.95, plus 12.72, and then multiply that by 2, I get 41.34. Since the 100th place is 4, I'm going to round to the 10th, which is 3. So the perimeter is 41.3. When I do the area, it's base times height, so now I'm going to multiply the two numbers together. 7.95 times 12.72. And I get 101.1 centimeters squared. All right. So now we'll go to the bottom on that page. A kite has a string 400 feet long. If the string makes an angle of 42 degrees with the ground, find the current height of the kite rounded to the nearest foot. All right. So again, notice a lot of right triangles being drawn. All right. So the string would be the hypotenuse, so 400 feet. And then the angle is 42 degrees, kind of like the angle of elevation that we've talked about that's in your homework tonight. All right, they want the height of the kite, so there we go. Height is opposite, 400 is hypotenuse, so we're going back to our friend sine. So the sine of 42 degrees equals h over 400. How do we get rid of a division by 400? We multiply, so 400 sine 42. All right, so now when I do 400 sine 42, I get 267.65. It says rounded to the nearest foot, so I'm going to round up to 268 feet. All right, so again, The trig part is what we've all been doing. You just have to set up a problem with the words they give you. All right, on the back. A warbler and a cardinal are perched at the tops of two trees as shown, given the angles of inclination. Angles of inclination is just like elevation between the apple and the birds. Which bird is closer to the apple and by how much? Okay. So basically the question marks tell us we're trying to find the hypotenuse, so we know it's not tangent. All right, for the one on the right, 9 is the opposite. So sine of 41 equals the opposite, which is 9 over, we'll call it x, distinguish between the both. Now, because our variable's in the denominator, we're going to end up doing x sine 41 equals 9. And we're going to divide by the sine 41. We end up dividing. It's just the opposite. When I do 9 divided by sine of 41, I get 13.718. This is in meters, so it doesn't say what to round to, so I'm going to go 13.72. All right, so that's how far the warbler to the left is. Now the cardinal, they give you the adjacent side, so instead of sine, it's cosine. So cosine of 31 equals the adjacent, which is 10 over, we'll call it y, distinguish between it. Again, variables in the denominator, so we're going to end up dividing 10 by the cosine of 31, whether we just remember that or we do cross multiplying. 10 divided by cosine 31, and I get 11.67 when I'm done rounding. All right. So obviously the cardinal is closer, and then we would just subtract and go 2.05 meters. All right, and then that would be all. All right, last problem. A fireman reports to a burning building as shown in the diagram at right. How far apart are the two people if one is on the 5th floor and the other is on the 9th floor around the nearest floor? Okay, so basically the person on the 5th floor is a 30-degree angle. All right, so if we want to get this height, we can use special right triangles. All right, we're rounding, so you don't have to worry about exact values. So if the x root 3 is 160, all right, opposite of 30 would be 160 divided by root 3. So I go to my calculator and I'm rounding 160 divided by second square root of 3. And I get approximately 92.376. All right. Now I'm going to do the 9th floor person. Please realize it's not 16.5. It's this whole degree. You would have to add those together. 30 plus 16.5 is 46.5. All right. So now, since that's not a special angle, it's close, but it's not exact, I would have to do, all right, the 160 feet is here. All right. That, again, is the opposite. Hypotenuse isn't involved, so it's got to be tangent. So the tangent of 46.5 equals the opposite, which is unknown, so we'll call it z, because we haven't used z today, over the adjacent, which is 160. All right, so now I do 160 times tangent, 46.5, I get 168.605. So the height to the 9th floor is 168.605. All right. If that's the 5th floor and that's the 9th floor, all right, I'm finding the difference. And when I find the difference, I subtract 168.605 minus 92.376. I get 76.229, which is the 76 feet. All right, and basically it's telling me to round the nearest foot. So since it's less than 0.5, I leave it at 76. All right, so if you're good, I'm good. We went through the word problems, okay? So remember, you have this, the 8.4 practice is due at midnight tomorrow. All we're going to do is go over the answers to that, and then we're going to start. How did I get to 46.5? Sure don't. All right, so this angle is 30. That angle is 16.5. So the ninth floor you got to realize is that big triangle, so you got to add these two together. Okay, you can't just do the 16.5 and add it because it's not linear. So you got to add these two angles together. Good question. All right. All right. So if everybody else is good, again, the 8.4 practice you should be working on. All right, it's due at midnight tomorrow morning when you log in. We're just going to go through the answers to that. Remember, with these, just set them equal to each other and solve. And then basically we will start on the quiz review. Remember, your quiz is beginning on Monday, the non-word problems, and then the word problem part will be on Tuesday. I'm going to stay logged on until the period ends, which is about 10 minutes, I think. All right, it ends at 9:35. All right. All right. All right. And if not, you're good to go. All right. You can log off if you want to get to work on that and log back on if you have a question, but I'll be sitting here for the next 12 minutes or so. All right. Be good.